Okay, everyone. So I'm going to do a brief video about this third paragraph that you're translating for homework. And we'll obviously talk about it in class tomorrow when we meet first period. So if you look at this first line here, Greci omnia que calcas dixerat praeter Palladium habuerunt. The verb, if you're going verb hunting, is habuerunt. Third plural perfect, active indicative, and then the subject are the Greeks. So the Greeks they perfectly had what? They had accusative everything. Well, they had accusative everything. So this is an accusative plural neuter substantive adjective, right? So it's not really modifying anything. It's just everything, all the accusative plural neuter things. So the Greeks had everything, and then a relative clause here, right? So if you look at this relative clause, you're going to have que, which, all the accusative plural things which Calchas had spoken. And remember, Calchas is the great Vates, or the soothsayer, the prophet, and he indicated they needed Neoptolemus, which they have, who is Achilles' son. They needed the Bow of Heracles, which they have. Remember, Neoptolemus and Ulysses went and convinced him on the island of Lemnos to bring Philoctetes to bring back the Bow of Heracles. So they have those two things, praeter, except, besides, the Palladium. That's an accusative singular. It's the object of the preposition praeter. So that first sentence is the nominative plural subject. Greeks had everything which nominative Calchas had pluperfectly said, except the Palladium. And remember, the Palladium is this sacred statue of Athena that is in Troy, right? If we move on to the next line, we're just going to see a very boring interrogative sentence. Quis Palladium Troia cepit. Quis, a pronoun. Who, nominative. And again, remember, if you're going verb hunting, cepit. Who took. So it's a perfect tense. You might get away here if you wanted to say who will take. But I think the story's being told in the past tense. So who took. Who perfectly snatched. Who perfectly snatched the accusative Palladium direct object, Troia. Remember, it's a city, so you don't use prepositions. Motion away from ablative, right? Who, interrogative pronoun, who took the Palladium from Troy? Question mark, right? Easy enough. And then we get into some newish grammar, right? Ulysses persuaded, and who did he persuade? He persuaded Agamemnon. Be mindful here, you don't persuade direct objects, rather you persuade dative things. You're persuasive to dative things. So this is dative with the intransitive verb. That's who was persuaded. It's almost like earlier we saw physus est ulixi, right? You trust dative things like that. Or also, imperro imperare, you give commands to dative people. That's the same thing's happening here with Agamemnon. So nominative subject Ulysses persuades, persuaded Agamemnon ut. So you have a verb like persuadeo, and then you have the ut. It's going to be an indirect command, right? He persuaded him to do something. He persuaded Agamemnon so that the ipse, so that he himself, meaning Ulysses, right? So he wants to go himself. Ulysses persuaded the date of Agamemnon that he himself, and then the subjunctive here, if you're hunting around, mitteretur, imperfect subjunctive and passive, so that he himself might be sent by a rege, by the ablative agent king, regum, of kings, which is Agamemnon, the king of kings, right? He's like the chief king. Regum, genitive. Rege, ablative of agency, right? So this is an ablative of agent. And then this over here is possession, plural, or objective genitive if you want to be fancy, right? Ipse, again, intensive pronoun, right? Ulysses persuaded dative Agamemnon that he himself might be subjunctively passively sent by the King of Kings, meaning by Agamemnon. And that is an indirect command, right? So that is an indirect command. Indirect command. All right, next up. Agamemnon ulixa misit quia ila est vir qui repat. So you have a couple verbs here. If we just highlight the verbs, you have misit, est, repat. Agamemnon misit ulixum. Simple enough. Nominative Agamemnon perfectly sent indicatively Ulysses. Ulixum just being an accusative direct object. Nominative Agamemnon sent accusative Ulysses because quia, he, ile, that one, demonstrative, is a man, who repat. Now, this is something that's a little bit new to you. You're going to learn it maybe in the next chapter. It's called a relative clause of characteristic. And it's another use of the subjunctive. We could talk about it tomorrow. So Agamemnon sent Ulysses because he was a man who might sneak, who might steal, who might, let's see what we have here, repo, to sneak, creep, crawl, who might crawl. He's like the type of man who would do this. And we know Ulysses is like a used car salesman, right? So, pardon me. So he's the man for the job, right? He's the sneakiest and the trickiest of the Trojans, if that makes sense. And obviously, we'll review all this tomorrow, and you're doing it for homework anyway. So, and just a reminder, you do have to hand in the homework. There's a handful of you who did not hand in the homework for the first two paragraphs, and obviously, we're being merciful here, and this is very irregular instruction and all that, but you still do need to do your work, right? We're still in school. Okay, next up. The next verb, so this whole sentence here, I'll highlight in yellow. It's kind of a long sentence. And your first verb is repsit. Which means to creep or to crawl. It's the same verb as this, but now in the perfect active indicative. And who did it? Ulysses. Shrewd, clever Ulysses. Kali does two L's. Clever, tricky, shrewd Ulysses crept. He crept into the city. Dissimulatis is a typo. It should be dissimulatis, meaning concealed. So that's a perfect passive participle, right? You just have to, the D was left off for some reason, so it's dissimulatus. Having been concealed, panis, with rags. So he's dressed as a beggar, right? He's dressed as a beggar. And then if you go to the beginning, brevi tempore, ablative time when. So soon, literally in a short time, sub tenebris, under the darkness, under the ablative darkness of genitive night, nominative, tricky Ulysses, shrewd Ulysses, disguised by means of rags, crept into the city of the Dardanians, of the Trojans. There's probably one too many in urbems here, right? So you can probably eliminate one if you need to. Does that make sense? Yeah? We'll obviously talk about it tomorrow in class. So that, and this is just a boring purpose clause, so that he might carry off, so that he might bear, so that he might bear the statuam, accusative, so that he might bear the accusative statue of Minerva. So again, just kind of a typographical thing there, right? You need the accusative there. So that he might subjunctively and perfectly bear away or take the statue of genitive Minerva. Okay. We'll talk about this and clean up the grammar of it and the typos tomorrow in class. Last sentence. Rex Ithacae fuit peritus fur atque Palladium forari potuit. Two verbs here. You have fuit and potuit, right? Main verbs, they're just both indicative. The king, Rex, of Ithaca, that's Ulysses or Odysseus, right? He was the king of Ithaca. The king, the nominative subject king of genitive Ithaca was Peritus, was an expert. Think of pert, expert, was an expert fur thief, right? Furtis, thief. Think of the English word furtive. And obviously it's the same verb, it's embedded in this verb, right? The verb means to be a thief, to steal. The king of genitive Ithaca was equal to being a predicate nominative expert thief, and he potuit was able forare to steal. Forare being a present active infinitive. Even though it looks past, remember it's deponent, right? Was able to steal the accusative Palladium, All right, so hopefully this makes some sense. Obviously, there's a couple of typographical errors. I'll fix them and post. Tomorrow during the conference, it'll have the accurate stuff on it. Good luck on this paragraph. We'll meet tomorrow, first period. Stay safe, get rest, clean your hands, all that good stuff. I hope to see you soon. You guys are rock stars. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. See you tomorrow morning.